Welcome back to Taking Action. I'm Chris Colombo. With me is Anthony Conover. Anthony Conover, when I originally started this, I am not the biggest bookmaker. That's in the things. We're changing a lot of our graphics as we go. We're getting better. We're understanding this podcast world. I am a novice in that area, but I am not a novice to gambling. Anthony is probably one of the best stats guys I've ever seen. He evaluates, but he evaluates from a fan's point of view. This is his dream. He works with us in the finance office. Those that say that I don't never did a hard day's work, would you agree with that?
I would wholeheartedly disagree.
All right. You've seen me half dead come into the office, correct?
Blown up leg.
Died a week before, had 3 strokes. I come to work.
Yeah, it's
So, because I'm trying to set an example for the youth of America, this is his dream. And he said that to me, and I told him that he would meet some of the most interesting people in the world and see sports through a different eye. Did I lie?
not an ounce.
All right. And you are learning something?
Yeah, absolutely. I am, like you said, I bet from a fan's point of view. A lot of the factors that, you've told me about, I never even really think about. So my picks definitely did not stand up from last week, but you did good.
Okay, let's go into a quick summary of Game 5, Week 5 in the NFL. There is a 54th player and a 13th player on the field when Dick Butkus dies. So if I give you a pick and something like that happens, football players are emotional. And part of my whole picking procedure is the teams that can overcome because the ball can bounce any way. The team that comes from behind sometimes is the better team and how they recoup. So if you see me make a pick and there's an emotional swing, we film on a Tuesday. The game is on a Thursday. Dick Butkus died. I hail him as probably the greatest middle linebacker that ever lived, possibly the most ferocious, and he is the epitome of bad football. And I know he's in football heaven right now. And so when you see that, one of the fans said to me, I'm going against this pick. And I answered, that is the right thing to do. So when you see that, let's recap 5. The teams I liked were, let's go through the bad ones first. The Cardinals, at 8 points, I liked them. The line was out. I didn't think they were an 8-point underdog. Burrows woke up. Cincinnati Bengals woke up. They were ferocious.
Jamar Chase, 3 touchdowns, 15 catches, franchise record.
Yes. My miscalculation of when they were going to wake up, I figured they were. The injury was bothering him. He played through it. We hail Burrows.
Absolutely.
Sorry for that one. Okay, the other one was the Titans. These are the 2 bad ones. I think I had 4 very good ones and my pick of the week stood up.
Saints
with my pick of the week.
Never in question as a sad Patriot fan.
So anyway, the Titans. The way I will later on tell you the 17 variables that the NFL uses and how I approach it. The quarterback is very important. So when the starting quarterback goes down, half my analysts and the offensive, defense, special teams, the coordinators, the coach, they bring in a whole different playbook for that time. I don't think the Titans were ready for that playbook. That changes the films. That changes everything they watched in the past. I believed we were better off without Minshew because they would have stuck to their game plan.
Especially in that situation as well, because Anthony Richardson, very athletic, running quarterback. Gardner Minshew is going to stay in the pocket. So it's a completely different game plan than, having to prepare for a running quarterback compared to in the pocket.
Yes. And they weren't prepared for the running game coming straight at them.
Zach Moss.
Yes. But it changed my variable. So if a quarterback, when I tell you, is not starting on either side, pay attention to the pick. If there's an emotional upheaval or a loss, momentum is the most important component in football. They're professionals. And I look for the teams that recover from the sway. Sometimes you see a ball fall the wrong way and interceptions. Those teams that recover from that, I like to go with. I like to take the points. Secondly, so my pick of the week, the Saints stood up. I believe the Jets did exactly what I said. It went the way I tell Anthony earlier. I might format Who was the other one? The Raiders.
49ers.
A little bit hairy. Sorry, the air up here is kind of
Smoky.
No, not smoky. The allergies. Thanks, Ed. Would you please? The Jets stood up, and there was one other pick.
49ers.
49ers. I like the 49ers to take it all this year, but it's still too early. Okay. Secondly, after this week is when my totals kick in. It's very hard to evaluate a total when you don't have data. So right now, the totals are going to be also, if I see ones I like, we will speak about it. If I don't, we do. And you can see totals have been up and downs for the first 5 games, not seasons this year. Around right after the 6th, I usually don't like to pick the first 3 games. The 4th, first three
weeks of the season.
Yes. The 4th is when it tightens up for me. The 5th, if the quarterback wasn't out and Minshew Titans, and my pick would have went more the way I wanted. Cardinals is just because it was a wrong line. Let's go into this week.
And like we said before, like you said, we record these on Tuesdays. So obviously the line will change from here to when the episode comes out to even when, possibly you bet. So,
okay. If you ask how I do this, is it prepared? My protocol is that I watch the games. I text or call Anthony with notes I make. I look at stats. That game for me is won in that 11 inches by the ball. I was an offensive line coach for 31 years and a head coach, and younger kids. I was very successful. I prepared them for high school. I did a good job at that because anatomically I made them learn the game. Because at younger ages, you don't know how you're going to develop it. To put them into that, just learn that. So I did a lot of what they did down south. There was a lot of watching, learning all positions on the field, how it interacts. So if you ask how we do it, I evaluate and I watch the films over and over. I watch the offensive line, the defensive line. I pay a lot of attention to special teams, and I pay a lot of attention to how deep they are in certain positions and not deep. And injuries are very important. But remember, it is professional football. They're getting paid a lot of money, so there are no bad players.
All right, we'll get into it now. Thursday night kicks off week 6. Denver at Kansas City. Line started at 10. It's now 10.5.
That's a half-point move. Everybody likes it. That's a lot of points. I like Russell Wilson, but he doesn't seem to be performing. Their lines both ways are erratic. Their special teams have dropped the ball a couple of times.
I believe the Broncos defense has given up the most points in the NFL so far.
I don't want to pick on them. The point is we're going to try to handicap a game. When at large point teams, also Mahomes shows me he doesn't go for the score. He'll try to run out the clock. I haven't yet evaluated that if legalized sports, how it has affected, but it has affected the NFL. Without a doubt. And I thought you would never hear these words out of my mouth as a bookmaker when you saw the majority have very high lines. I got my head kicked in on teasers because they can win both ways. So that's what I would look out for as a bookmaker. I would never advise anybody to lay 6-5 and pushes blow it. But that's where the hook kills you on a teaser. But what I used to do for them, I would move it up. And there were no hooks. You would either win or lose. I was a little more gracious. And that was called a sweetheart teaser. I invented it. So moving forward, and I moved to the Grand Salami. Moving forward, that's all the totals for entire hockey day. Okay. Moving forward, at this point, there are a lot of high lines. It's very, very difficult to evaluate if they're going to give the give-me-up touchdown or if they're going to blow them out. It depends on what position they're in. That is my advice on high scoring teams with a high spread. Thank you for giving me that. I didn't realize spread. Thank you.
No problem.
I thought spread was something you put with like peanut butter and jelly.
Chunky
spread.
Or smooth?
Yes, it is.
Chunky or smooth?
Thank you.
I go chunky. Sunday, we move on. Ravens at the Titans. Ravens started off 4.5-point favorites. They're now 3.5.
Well, people are favoring the Titans. I think they're a solid organization. I like the offensive line. I like the defensive line. I like the special teams. I like their running game.
Oh, actually, this is also the London game. I forgot to mention that.
You know, the Bills last week flew in Friday night from London. It's unheard of.
Dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's jet lag. Is preparing to be ready. I don't know how to evaluate. The Jaguar game was an easy game for us to do. I think we were successful on that one.
No, we picked the Bills.
You picked the Bills. I like the team that was there, but we'll go forward. I said I leaned towards them because of the Bills, but that's not the point. But it's in London. Next.
Commanders at the Falcons. Falcons started off 1.5-point favorites. They're now 2.5-point favorites.
And the Falcons are at home. So that means it's a half-point favoring the Commanders because you got to
3 points.
Where the lines go, 3 points. I lean towards the Commanders. I don't know if I bet them. I like the Commanders. I like what I've seen. My analysis is I lean towards the Commanders, but I don't know if I would bet them. Go ahead.
Vikings at the Bears. Vikings started off at 4.5-point favorites. They're now 2.5-point favorites. Big thing with this game, Justin Jefferson, number 1 wide receiver, maybe the best receiver in football, out for the Vikings now on IR for the next 4 weeks at least.
Listen, the Bears could have played any team that ever played in football. Last week for Dick Buckus, it brought them together. They were possessed. I don't know how they come off that. But usually there's a decompression when you play at that level, and they played at a level that really Dick Buckus would be proud of. I'm going to lead towards, guess who?
The Vikings.
Yes.
Seahawks at the Bengals. Bengals started off as 2.5-point favorites. They're now 3-point favorites.
At the Bengals.
Seahawks coming off a bye week as well.
Burrows and that team could go on a run. They do. But it might have been just their rhythm is not impact. There's an expression, I wouldn't bet it, I wouldn't book it.
Okay. 49ers at the Browns, the line that you hate, -5 for the 49ers.
That means there's something wrong. That's a bookmaking line. It's 5.5. We should stay away from them. Go 49ers. I like the 49ers.
Saints at the Texans. Saints are 1-point favorites.
Saints were my pick last week. I like the Saints this week.
Colts at the Jaguars. Jags started off as 5.5-point favorites, which you hate, are now 4.5.
I stay away from opening lines at 5.5. It's not quite 2 field goals. It's less than a touchdown. I stay away from it. Myself, I'd watch the game.
Panthers,
but I do pay attention and watch for next week. That's what I see. So when I stay away from this, things I'm not sure of that I want to calculate for next week. Go ahead.
Panthers at the Dolphins. Dolphins started off as 10.5-point favorites. They're now 13.5-point favorites.
Panthers are having a disappointing year, to be kind to them.
Number 1, they traded for the number 1 pick last year. It looks like they're going to actually, they don't even have a first-round pick this year because they traded it away. So
like I said, you usually never hear these words out of my mouth. It's teaser week. Those of you who don't know what a teaser is, on 2 teams, you get 6 points, 3 teams, you get 10. You lay 6-5. If pushes usually lose, depending on the operation. And I know if it's legal, you're in trouble with that. Pushes are going to lose. But this is a teaser week when bookmakers get their heads kicked in. People think they're getting points for free. They're not. They're laying 6-5. And pushes lose, which is a big, not tie. So this is a week where when the points are big, both sides could win.
We go on. The Patriots at the Raiders. Raiders were 1.5-point favorites. They're now 3-point favorites.
The move indicates that the smarter money is on them. Beyond 3, because a lot of games end in a field goal, we can't push it. I like the Raiders. Do you agree?
As a Patriot fan, I do. We're terrible.
Bill Belichick is no dummy, but I don't see where he's going to bring this team together.
They just don't have the talent. Their wide receivers average 1.5 yards of separation, worst in the NFL. Lions.
I hate to pick on a team. Go ahead.
Lions at the Buccaneers. Lions are 3-point favorites.
That means they're saying 6. I think that's a hell of a game to watch. Buccaneers are one of the teams that I picked that would do well against the spread, especially when they were underdogs. Voracious defense. That's up to you people to call. Buccaneers are a solid organization. Detroit is showing us a lot. But when in doubt, I take the points.
Cardinals at the Rams. Rams started off as 4.5-point favorites. They're now 6.5-point favorites.
Rams are a good team. They're coming off a loss. They're in a good rhythm. I always like the Cardinals against the spread. It's one of the teams I picked. They made a lot of mistakes last week.
Rams also did get their true number one wide receiver back, Cooper Kupp, last week to pair with Puka Nacua, who's had an unbelievable start to the season as a rookie.
In my components, the Cardinals are one of the teams, and they're 2-2 now, but they were 2-1, I believe, right?
I think they are 2-3.
Not 2-2. Against the spread, or 3-2.
Against the spread, they might be. They're 3-2 against the spread.
3-2 against the spread. They were 3-1, but they dropped 2 balls in the end zone. 3-yard passes, give me up touchdowns. They anticipated, but that one stuck in my head. That's a tough one. Cardinals are going to be good against the spread this year, but they're going against a solid organization, and the points are not that pronounced. So I would book it, not bet it, but I don't book no more.
Eagles at the Jets. Eagles are 6.5-point favorites.
That's where home team underdog kicks in. Historically, I think the Eagles have done pretty good against the Jets.
I'm not sure, but the Eagles have been unbelievable the last 2 years. Jets also not a very good offensive line. They just lost another one for the year. I know
all about it. We talked about it earlier. I watched it happen. What's the line there?
6.5. Eagles are 6.5-point favorites.
Eagles should win by more than 6.5.
Okay. Back to the big spread. Sunday Night Football. Giants at the Bills. Bills opened as 12-point favorites. It's now 14.
It's a very good week to consider teasers.
Daniel Jones, worst record in primetime games in NFL history. Monday night, Dallas Cowboys at the Chargers. Dallas started off as a 2.5-point favorite. They're now a 2-point favorite.
That's because of their performance last week. It's a primetime game. Teams come. I lean towards the Chargers on that pick. Week 6 is not the best for handicapping because you don't need a handicapper to tell you who's the better team when it's 9 points or more. Anything can happen. It's a week. The bookmakers inherently get their heads kicked in with teasers because they can fall both ways.
And,
like 10 points if it's a 6-point teaser, 10 points if it's a 6-point teaser. You can be laying 4 or taking 16. Awful large spread there. Not much a handicapper can do when the lines are that inflated or predominant. So I would consider teasers on this particular week.
All of those spreads come from Don Best as well, the opening spread. And, obviously, like we said before, that's what the spreads are on this Tuesday. When the episode comes out Thursday, things might have
changed. Don Best is the sharpest line out there right now. Everybody asks who dictates the line. It's Don Best dictates it. To Vegas, illegal bookmaking offshore, which is legal, but not to bet from here, and legal bookmakers use Don Best. He's the sharpest line. He dictates. Now everybody moves off their own money. If he's moving that way and you're overloaded the other way, it'll deflate the line. but that's a very important component because it'll give you the opening line. It'll give you where it's at now. Also, it will give you and show you most of the good books in Vegas, the Island line, and what has been lost is the New York line, which used to be the illegal bookmaking line, which was me. That was the sharpest line because the sharper guys would hit us first. It's Anthony Conover. Anthony's a little gun shy this week with his picks. He's going to leave me out hanging to dry. He's a little upset about himself last week, but he's very smart. He knows what he's doing, but he comes from the position of a fan. I come from a monetary position, the smartest place to put your money. Good luck this week, and don't forget to hit subscribe. I gave you the best info I can on a week like this. I never thought I'd hear the words out of my mouth that it's a teaser week, but that's when I would get beat up when the majority of the spreads were high. Don't forget, hit subscribe. Let us know if you like us. I read the comments. I will thing. Also, we're working with our graphics. It's becoming much better. We're also a better resolution now, I believe. And we're building a set as we speak for taking action. Look forward to us in the future. Good luck and God bless.